So we had a lot of WNBA action on Sunday that has become a routine thing now since May began. And we had 5 games on the same night. And I'm not a multi-view person. I'm not gonna watch two, 3, 4 games at the same time. So I had to space things out. And Monday has officially become my catch-up day. But I did get the chance to watch the Aces play the Indiana Fever in real time, and to begin the game, the opening moments, things felt promising for the Aces. There were back-to-back buckets, but then as soon as I saw that easy lane to a layup from Aaliyah Boston from Caitlin Clark, I knew that it was gonna be a tougher night, and the defense just continues to be an ailment for the Aces. Few things in life are certain. There's death, taxes, and Caitlin Clark hitting Aaliyah Boston off the pick and roll. We know that's happening. I'm sure that's in the scouting report. We also know that there's going to be an elevator screen. We also know that she's going to go left. I don't think that the Aces did a great job at containing Clark. I think that it was a matter of her not shooting well. I don't think she shot well. And there's been several players to speak out, like Satu Sably and Natasha Cloud, for example, about scheduling. And I don't think that we can leave the Fever out of that conversation. They've had 3 games in 6 days. So what we could have been seeing was fatigue. The Fever played a tough Valkyrie team, and I think the Valkyries actually showed them the best defense that they've seen thus far this season. That Natalie Nakase and her staff really got that scouting report down, and it really makes me think about how pivotal Nakase's role was with the Aces. The counters to Clark's scout have been blitzing over the screens. I did see the Aces do that. It's also been putting a longer defender on Clark. I did see the Aces do that, but there were a number of opportunities for Clark where she was wide open. She just didn't knock down the shot. To start the game, the Aces weren't switching, and that was the issue. Over the screens, they were getting beat, and then they started to switch, and it slowed things down some. I'm not really a fan of switching every time. I think that it's a little bit lazy. And in fact, I'm just gonna go as far as to say that sometimes the Aces defense is lazy. I was literally screaming at my TV, "Oh my God, play transition defense." I think that they just get caught in a lull sometimes, but then they have those moments where they're playing hard-nosed defense and teams can't compete with that, or they cause teams trouble. And I think that's what ended up happening down the stretch. Clark's counter for the league figuring out how to slow her down is she's going to have to become a better on-ball defender. People want to argue that her help defense has improved. I can't honestly, I haven't watched that stat much. I haven't really paid attention much to her help side defense, but I know that she's a weaker on-ball defensive player, and that is going to take her game to another level if she's able to get steals on ball. Sometimes she has quick hands, but it's not as consistent as they need it to be for her to have an impact on the game when she's not scoring. Obviously, her assist stat has not wavered, but I think adding that defensive presence while also continuing to grow her mid-range game is gonna help. Looking at the head-to-head stats between her and Chelsea Gray, I called this before the game the battle of the point guards. The point guard, the OG, and then we have the up and coming with Caitlin Clark. And Clark bested her in points and assists. Clark had 19 points and 11 assists, but Gray bested in field goal percentage and turnovers. Clark had 8 turnovers, 7 of them in the second half once the Aces started to make those adjustments defensively. And Gray had 4 turnovers to end the game. I think that Gray has gone outside of her point guard role this season, especially since the Aces are a smaller team right now. I've seen her defending in the 4 spot, and she's managed fairly well despite the loss to Seattle. There's really not much you can do when the person that you're playing is taller than you, but I think that she does use her body well. So I think that it's interesting to see her take on some new roles in this light. With that said, I still think that the Aces are missing her being that point guard that they essentially acquired her for. They didn't acquire her to be in playing defense on the four spot. They need her to be the point guard. So I will be excited, and I know that they will be excited when she comes back into that facilitating, role. Not that she's left, but I think that they're just finding out how to use the pieces together, and everybody, has to knock down their shots in order to have assists. You need your teammates to knock down. So I still think that they're figuring out some things and how to make all of this work. It felt like Asia couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. She was 2 for 13 at the half, but she finished really strong. She helped lead the Aces to victory. 24 points on 38% shooting, 7 rebounds. After the game, she actually apologized to fans, saying, "I want to apologize to everyone that was watching. That is not a normal Asia Wilson night." And I'd argue that it definitely was an Asia Wilson night in the aspect of she put the Aces on her back and pulled them to the finish line. I don't think that she wavered in her aggression, and her presence on the court was definitely felt on both ends of the court. So I hope she's not being too hard on herself, but of course she probably is, and that's why she's one of the best players in the world. The Fever only went to the free throw line 9 times in this game compared to the Aces 21 times. And when you hear that stat, you're like, oh my gosh, what happened there? But when you also hear that the Fever are a top 3 leader in fouls in the entire league, then it starts to make more sense. And then to also know that the Aces do the least amount of fouling in the league, it all checks out. Right now, it's Connecticut, Washington, and the Indiana Fever as the teams who foul the most, while Vegas, Seattle, and Minnesota foul the least. New York versus Seattle was an exciting matchup. Seattle is another one of my teams, and I'm just so excited about this team this season right here, right now. I think that they're championship contenders. You probably heard me say that about a lot of teams, but I think that there are a few teams right now that have championship level talent and cohesion in moments. It hasn't been a team that has been consistent in that they've all taken games off, but I think that there are a few teams that I will not be surprised to see in the championship. I don't think that it's as clear cut as some people talk like it is, with just knowing that New York is going to the championship, just knowing Minnesota is going to the championship. No, I don't think like that, although I do think that Minnesota is one of the most disciplined teams. Obviously, New York is up there as well. New York, to me, has the most weapons of any team. But then I say that when you look at this Seattle roster, they have the most skilled depth in front court positions from size to experience with Nneka Ogwumike, Ezi Magbegor, Gabby Williams, Alicia Clark, and even the rookie Dominique Malonga. She impacts the game every time she touches the floor. She uses her size really well, and she has really good touch around the rim. She's impacting people's shots. They're thinking twice before taking it to the lane. And I think that that front court can compete with anybody, on top of Gabby Williams having a career year. New York was without Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu, Leonie Fibich, and the game was still close up until the final moments. And I expected that. This is a deep team, but eventually I knew that Seattle was going to be able to pull it off. We can't deny Sabrina Ionescu's impact with New York. New York had 21 turnovers and Seattle earned 22 points off of them. Sab is the ball security for New York. She averages just 2 turnovers a game. She's also their ball movement, averaging 5 assists a game. Though that number is down, she's down a whole assist from last season. I think that's due to the presence of Natasha Cloud in the starting lineup, and Cloud alleviating some of that facilitating. Maureen Johannes had a big game. She was 7 for 7 from the floor up until the 2 minute and 50-second mark in the third quarter. Dick Fane called her shot goofy looking, and I think that was so funny because it was so accurate, and I love when analysts are just real and don't try to find pretty words for things and just call it is kinda goofy, like, she could probably have a career with the Harlem Globetrotters after her W season when she just wanna, take a load off and just still put up buckets because it looks like a trick shot every time she puts it up. It literally looks like horse at, like, LA Fitness from some guy that is just amazing, you know? So Marin had a great shooting night, but she wouldn't score in the second half, or she wouldn't make a field goal rather. Coach Quinn at the half talked about exploiting her defensively and making her work harder defensively. So it obviously seemed to work. And that's another reason why I credit Seattle so much for being a championship contender because I believe in Coach Quinn so much. I think she has one of the best clipboards in the league. She's just a really smart coach, really high IQ. I honestly love her energy on the sidelines. She always seems excited to answer questions, even when the Storm are in a tight situation. She's laughing sometimes answering analyst question or reporter questions, and I just love her genuine joy for the game. And when they would show inside of Seattle's practices during the game breaks last season, just hearing her motivational words. So big ups to Coach Quinn. To start the second half, New York had 4 turnovers in under 3 minutes to start that third quarter. Gabby Williams again playing at insane levels. I talked about Azare Stevens in the last episode, or last Sunday episode of Let's Talk Hoops being the most improved player. I take that back. I spoke without really thinking. I don't know how I forgot about Gabby Williams. I'm sorry, girl, that I forgot about you in that moment, but I absolutely think that Gabby Williams is most improved. I take that vote back and I'm voting for Gabby. She's expanded her three ball. I mean, it's amazing to see a player improve so much from the 3-point line from season to season because that's not an easy feat. Like that means you have to adjust your form a little bit. You have to adjust how much you're using your knees. Your strength may have to adjust. You may have to get stronger to be able to put up that shot. And the way that she's not hitting just easy stepping into three. Sometimes she's falling away like insane shots. So yeah, Gabby Williams is and then she just recently had a double-double. I believe it was against the Sparks. She's on pace to have the most steals in a single season. Playing both sides of the ball always is gonna get you, more nods. And yeah, I think Gabby Williams is being unreal now. She is definitely an all-star. If she's not an all-star, uh, you know, there's something going on in the voting right there. There's a snub. And when I'm thinking about snub, I also think that she may be unfairly targeted ever since she made that statement about officiating and just criticizing them on her landing space and not protecting the players. She really didn't get many calls in that game against New York. She went to the free throw line 4 times, and she's a player that drives to the basket. She's getting the contact. Some of these fouls have been obvious fouls that they are just not calling, and there's a official underneath the basket. So I don't she talked about officials being in their ego, and maybe that struck a nerve. You know that these officials talk like just like people talk, and I'm sure there are egos. I don't doubt egos, and I don't doubt discrimination in this type of setting because people are people. But whatever is going on, they got to make some calls for Gabby Williams or face me continuing to call them out with you. I'm calling them out with you, Gabby. Okay, I'm gonna keep reposting your quotes so people can see this and because it's dangerous. Like on top of it impacting the flow of the game, it's impacting the temperament of the players, but it's impacting the safety of the players. And now they have a longer season, so with the season being stretched out and that extra wear and tear on their bodies naturally because of that, they need to have better officiating, and so the game is regulated and just to protect them health wise. Chicago lost a tough one in Atlanta, but to their credit, they kept it close for most of the game until Atlanta went on a 12-2 run in the fourth quarter. Elizabeth Williams had a strong game, 16 points off of the bench on 66% shooting, 5 rebounds. The Sky can't be afraid to rotate that starting lineup. I believe that I heard Coach Marsh talk about how he likes to see several games before making a decision. I think I'm the opposite of that. I don't really need to see much to know what I see. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but that's just how I am. And what I've seen from Chicago is that there are some matchups where Elizabeth Williams is going to thrive in that setting, and then there's some matchups where Camila Cardoso would be better in that setting to start the game. So I think that it could be worth switching them out based on the matchup. Naturally, I think that her minutes are a bit restricted anyway, just because of her conditioning. So I think her being a spark off of the bench would make sense, but I also understand that they want to make Cardoso a centerpiece for their offense. So at this point of the season, it's probably just a matter of long-term development. When you look at their minutes in this particular matchup, Williams just had 1 minute more than Cardoso. Cardoso ended the game with 7 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists. She is an underrated passer, but I want to see her more aggressive with taking that 6, 10 foot jump shot. I want her to look at BG. Like, I think that Cardoso should model her game off of BG. It's similar in size. When BG shoots, it's automatic. She got that turnaround pull up. She don't even really jump. It's automatic. She's shooting over everyone. And Cardoso has that kind of reach, but I see her pass out of that shot often. While I do appreciate the ball movement and I appreciate how she can get the ball to other bigs, I want to see her more aggressive in that shot, because when she does shoot, I think it's a high probability that is going in. She has a nice shot. I just want to see her take it more. Angel Reese had 10 points and 19 rebounds, but Ariel Atkins is really standing out in the way that the franchise anticipated. And I think that's what they need from her in order to be successful. They're putting her in a different position than what she's used to. She's playing a lot more the point guard, so she's having to do more facilitating. I don't even think at this point, I hope that winning isn't number one in their minds. And that sounds crazy to say because they're professional athletes. Of course, they're going to want to win, but they have to look at what winning is for them outside of the record. Outside of their record, what is winning for them? Winning maybe having a 20 plus point game with 6 to 8 assists for Ariel Atkins. I think that that's something that she should be striving for. I like her in the point guard position, but when she was in Washington, she's always had other guards to lean on, and she just doesn't have that caliber of guard next to her in Chicago. So it's really challenging her in new ways. I'm hoping that Chicago fans are feeling a little bit better at this point in the season. It does look like improvement is happening. It does look like we can see the vision a little bit clearer. So even though, there's loss, there's a little a hint of light, a little light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, for Chicago and maybe the future. But it's just hard to even think that far ahead when you've already had the decisions made by the GM. And that's all I'm going to say today, because I do not feel like going on a rant about Chicago's GM. But in better news, Atlanta did a good job in closing this game after keeping Chicago close for 3 quarters. I got a chance to talk to Coach Smesco about closing games and asked him if he saw any trends, and this is what he had to say. Coach, you spoke to finishing games, and it sounds like something that I think you mentioned before. Are there any trends that you're seeing from game to game with how you guys are finishing?
No, I mean, I think it's easy to see trends if something happens two or three times, and then you start to look for it. So anytime it happens, you kind of give yourself some confirmation bias. But I mean, it's been on the other side too. Like in Seattle, we came back from 17 down. So it really is a game to game thing. There's a lot of runs in basketball, no matter what. But for us, on occasion, sometimes we lose focus on what we're trying to do. And when we do that, we are susceptible to other teams coming back on us. I think that was one of the reasons when we were behind, and we were locked in to scoring every single possession, and we had to get stops. Sometimes it just takes losing this much of the edge, and it's hard to get the game back. So, uh, I don't think this is something that's unique to us. I think every night in the W, you see a game like this where somebody makes a run to come back late in the game, and that's why everybody loves coming to the games because they're exciting. But I would have liked to make this game less exciting.
Smesko also says that the Dream's identity this season is one of learning, and that has to include learning how to be better three-point shooters. Nas Hillman has 12 threes on the season after having just one last season. Alicia Gray ended the game with 19 points, and I've spoke on this a little bit before. Her field goal percentage is up in every, well, her shooting percentage is up in every stat line. She's up 10% field goals. She's up 8% three-point shooting. Her free throws are up. So Alicia Gray is improving. He credits it more so to the quality of her shots compared to the quality of her shots from previous seasons. So it's not necessarily as, her work ethic, but it's her work ethic coupled with a system that works for her. So I appreciate him tooting his own horn a little bit for that. Bree Jones, who really dominated, had 13 points and 11 rebounds. Ron Howard had a team high of 22. Tahina Pow, though, one of my favorite rooks, 16 points off of the bench. She is now leading the W in three-point percentage. Her efficiency, what she's been able to accomplish in her limited minutes. I think that coach, or after talking to coach, it sounds like down the stretch we aren't seeing her as much as some people would like, is because of her defense, but she's learning every game. I think that she's getting a little bit better. I didn't see some of those same type of fouls that I saw her make in previous matchups in this matchup. So she's learning. When she's getting in the game, she's making the most of her minutes, and that's what matters. It's all going to come if she continues to trend in this direction, which I believe, which I feel like I know she will. The Dream's next big matchup is going to be Minnesota on Friday. They have one against Dallas in between that time. Nafisa Collier is officially day to day, so there's no word on if she'll for certain be back in this matchup. But regardless, I think that this is going to be a really good test, a playoff preview, if you will, against this Minnesota team, because they're good with and without Nafisa Collier. Obviously, they want to have her, but they can definitely fare a storm, without her. So I'm looking forward to seeing that matchup. The Washington Mystics versus the Dallas Wings was a great game because it was the rookie of the year battle for me. I know that people want to run away with Paige at this point. Paige was the one who got rookie of the year before the season even started. People projected Paige winning that award, but I don't think that the conversation is over yet. I still believe, regardless of the stats, I still believe that the Rookie of the Year award sits in Washington. When I'm looking at the numbers and I'm comparing Citron to Bueckers, I also think that Kiki Iriafen can be in this conversation. And I say that because I think that Kiki plays a tougher position. That's arguable because I go back and forth on, if the guards have it tougher than the post. But let's just keep it at Citron and Bueckers for the sake of position. They're both guards, even though they're different styled guards. Paige is a point guard, shooting guard. She's really a shooting guard, but in this role with the Dallas Wings. She's having to be that point guard situation. So Citron is averaging 32 minutes, 49% from the floor, 36% from three, 84% from the line, 4.9 rebounds, 1.1 steals, 2.1 assists, 2.1 turnovers. Bueckers is averaging 35 minutes, 46% from the floor, 32% from three, 85% from the line, 4.6 rebounds, 5.9 assists, 2.5 steals, 2.5 turnovers. Now, Paige is averaging 18.2 points to Sonia's 14.6 points. To me, comparing the point production is an obvious thing to do. That's what people want to do. They want to look at how many points one is making versus the other. But I don't think that the points tell the whole story to how impactful Sonia is to this Mystics team. They also do not have the same role. I mentioned that before. The offense is different. I think the Wings rely on Paige to be that scorer more than how Sonia is relied on in her offensive system. I think that they are more, the Mystics that is, are more team oriented than the Wings. And so the point production is spread amongst, whoever is really has a hot hand. It might be Kiki, it might be Shakira now, because Shakira has been having some breakout games. But I think that Sonia is doing the intangibles. When we look at some of the stats, Paige is leading in steals by more than one or just around one. But I don't think that tells the story of the defense, because when you look at, it's comparable. When I think about it, it's comparable to Asia Wilson versus Nafisa Collier, Defensive Player of the Year award. Last year was given to Nafisa Collier, although Asia Wilson beat Collier in every defensive stat. She bested her in every defensive stat, but it was because of the things that aren't on the stat sheet, those intangibles, and she still won that award. So personally, I think that Sonia is a better, I might get backlash for this, but I like Sonia's defense a little bit better than Paige. They're both great. They're both great defenders, but I think that Sonia has the edge. And I think that's part of the reason why the game went into overtime. The Mystics had Citron on Enrique and they had Suge on Paige, which I think was just a mistake. But I also think that a part of the Mystics may have thought that Enrique was going to be the option for that sideline out of bounds play, but Enrique was actually the decoy and she led Sonia out to the perimeter. So she wasn't even in help position, although the ball didn't even go that deep. The ball, stayed. They needed the three and they got the three from Paige, but I think it would have been a smarter decision to have Citron on Paige. I thought that when Citron was matched up on Paige, she managed fairly well. And Suge is also a smaller guard. And she was really low to sleep because looking at the play, I really don't know how she didn't anticipate that screen coming. It's like one of those things that you can see from a mile away. Lee Yuru is coming at you. And I don't know how she got stuck behind that, because it's a matter of being on your toes, ready for this moment. You're guarding Paige Bueckers, who's, the first or second option for this Wings team. But that aside, I thought that Suge had a solid game. She hit some big shots in the opening minutes, and I like that they opted for Suge down the stretch, because I've seen them opt for Jade down the stretch, and I think that Suge brings that veteran experience, and she's a little more even tempered with the ball, and she has a little bit better decision making than Jade. But while I bring up Lee Yuru, I have to talk about Lee Yuru's performance while she's been in Dallas thus far. She wanted more playing time. She's obviously getting more playing time. She's averaging 19.6 minutes, 6.3 points, 1.6 assists, and 4.6 rebounds across her 3 games with the franchise. So congratulations to her for speaking out and getting the trade that she wanted. think that it worked out for everyone, although I did question it because I just did not know if Seattle could get anything out of a deal with Dallas, but Dallas dug deep in their purse and they were able to pull it off. So everything worked out. Job well done for all parties involved. I talked about Shakira Austin, but I have to reference her game against Atlanta, which was a career night for her with the uh, career high in points, 28 points. She had 21 in this matchup and 7 rebounds. She stepped up as a leader since the start of the season, and that's exactly what they need from her, and that she's earning her place in this young franchise with a lot of potential in a franchise that's looking at the bigger picture and for long-term growth. I also have to commend the leadership in Brittany Sykes, just 8 points, but she had 4 assists. But her importance to the team goes beyond what she produces in the point column. I think that even with her on the court, she is a threat. So that's impacting the defense. And she's so quick and she's a solid defender. And she got into foul trouble. She ended her night on the court in overtime and she had 5 fouls to start that overtime. So great job by Brittany Sykes and being that leader. And you can see her in real time talking herself out the ledge because she was frustrated with some of the calls, but she was able to, bring herself together, collect herself, and really pull it off for that solid rookie team. And it's interesting to me because when you look at the bench production from Dallas versus Washington, you don't typically see a team winning a game when they're outscored in bench production 23-1. Washington's bench only made 1 point. That 1 point came from a Jade Melbourne free throw. Every player on the Wings roster contributed, and I'm unsure of what we're seeing or what I'm seeing from Aaliyah Edwards this season. She has struggled to find her place in this new offense. And to start the season, I know she was hurt, but seeing the system, I thought that this would be a system that favored her. I thought that she has a pretty decent shot, and I just don't know what the block is there, but I'm hoping that she can find her place pretty soon because they could definitely use her. Um, all of her stats are down significantly. Stephanie Dolson played just 8 minutes. Emily Inksler played just 6 minutes. Lucy Olson played a minute, and Jade scored, off of that free throw. A team that typically runs through their roster. I feel like Washington does a really good job at managing minutes and getting people time, but in this matchup, they ran with their starters for most of the game, and I think coach is understanding what he has more. And I have to give Kiki Iriafen credit for a big game. After struggling her last 3 games, she scored single digits the past 3 games, but she was able to pull off 19 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals, and was a major factor in the final moments of that game. She controlled the possession of the jump ball, and that led to Sonia Citron hitting the three-pointer to win the game. And Sonia reached that career high, 27 points, 11 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 assists, and a block on her Rookie of the Year challenger. I just want to say that that means something. I think that how she performed against the potential Rookie of the Year means a lot. But overall, just a solid win, a real bounce back game for Washington because I know it was tough losing in Atlanta after fighting back so hard in that fourth quarter, and they almost forced an overtime there. So, yeah, congratulations to the Mystics for pulling this off. This team has heart. We saw that from the beginning. They're fearless. They're still a team that you have to prepare for and you can't take for granted going into the matchup. And you just never know what it's going to look like at the end of the season. They started off pretty strong. They hit some losing streaks, but I think that they still have a lot of promise to the rest of their season, especially after All-Star break and people kind of get recharged and maybe a sense of new motivation after All-Star. We don't know who's gonna make the All-Star rosters just yet, but yeah, just great basketball for Sunday. What are your thoughts on everything, Hoops Tribe? Did I make any points? Did you disagree with any of my points? Let's talk hoops.